So if you can buy a multi-million-dollar business or sell a multi-million-dollar business that way, there's basically no middleman, and that's what I don't like is a state regulatory body. I do not. What I want to say, but just as far as position, and I'll just get comfortable and go. Welcome, Tanner. Welcome back to the studio / basement. How's your week been going?
Yeah, pretty good. I mean, it's still an interesting time to be in real estate, but we got a couple projects going. We just got a big listing out. So it was a busy couple weeks.
You got a flip going on. You got all kinds of stuff going on. Different things. So
yeah, negotiations on a couple purchases, and so
yeah. So speaking of this week, so earlier this week I hosted the Rookie RIA that I helped run. I guess someone else technically hosted, and I just set everything up and get someone to host for us. But during that, we were at an Airbnb property, and it was a property management company, Airbnb property management company. And I think a lot of people see real estate and like, oh, I'm going to get into real estate investing. And then they say, well, I'm going to do Airbnb, or I'm going to do midterm rentals, or I'm going to, pick your flavor. And my argument to that is you're mixing two things. You're mixing an investment with a business. So not only are you starting investing, and highest and best use of a property might be to Airbnb it out. It might be might have a nice backyard, might have a swimming pool, might have some feature that in the country that people want to go and relax, or whatever it is, in the mountains, beach, whatever. But when you Airbnb something out, you're starting in the hospitality business. Like you're starting your property management as that. What are your thoughts on? Would you call me a liar, or would you agree with me, or what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree that Airbnb is more of a hospitality type business, and the people who just throw furnishings in and throw it up on Airbnb, I mean, they're not going to yield the results that someone who really focuses on the customer service and the experience behind staying at their property. And which is one of the things that they talked about was the little tricks that they do to make it a little bit nicer of a stay, and stuff like having sponges that are still in the wrap, in the wrapper, that makes people feel like oh, this sponge has never been used before. So, the little things like that, most Airbnb hosts are not doing. They just, some of them I've seen mattresses on the floor, and they call it an Airbnb. Like that's crazy. And so I think you're absolutely right that when you buy an investment property, it's a different mindset than starting an Airbnb business or short-term rental business. Not sponsored by Airbnb, so.
Yeah, and that's a misnomer too. Short-term, we call it Airbnb, but it's really short-term rental. Airbnb
it's like
platform.
Ziploc or Velcro.
WD-40, or I guess that is something.
Yeah, exactly. So Airbnb is a platform for short-term rentals, but there are other platforms. There's been smaller competitors that have tried to pop up, and it doesn't do well. But yeah, I mean. And the Airbnb business is difficult. Like just like the hotel business is very different from running, apartment complexes. It's just a difficult industry. And so people that think that that's the path of least resistance is I'm going to come in and I'm just going to throw $5,000 in furnishings and now I'm going to be a millionaire. It's unrealistic. And so I think that there's too many gurus out there saying, oh, it's easy, just rental arbitrage. And if you're looking to build an Airbnb business, you have to understand it's not going to be passive. It's going to be very time consuming. There's a lot of lessons learned, and you're still taking a risk. There's a risk that you're going to lose money, and you'll be on the hook for that rent, or that mortgage payment or whatever it is, regardless of whether your Airbnb does well. So people, I think that's the easiest way to get your foot in the door. It's really not.
Yeah, I would agree there. So I'll speak from my experience with it. So I bought my first investment February of 22, and it was two package deal. One of them happened to be a duplex that was already set up as an Airbnb. So I took over that property, did some work to it. They had like really crummy furniture, and I went from really crummy to a little less crummy
Mm.
furniture. And in 22, coming off from COVID, it did well. Like I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was between 60 and 65 that I made on a duplex top line
Mm.
revenue.
Wow.
And I bought the property for I don't remember now, like less than 210, 203, I think is what. So
Mm.
like
That's
you're talking,
incredible.
yeah,
Mm.
60 something thousand, and only
Hmm.
bought it for 200, whatever. So it did really well that first year. The second year, last year, didn't do so well. I mean, it did all right, but not as well. And then in November timeframe, around Thanksgiving or so, Airbnb changed their algorithm again.
Mm.
And when they did that, I've been fairly vocal about Airbnbs, and I set up all of my systems processes. I was using property management software, had it pretty much all automated, that it was fairly hands off,
Mm.
but still a headache. And so people like that knew that I had done that and knew I had a couple of Airbnbs would reach out, they'd call me. It was around Thanksgiving, Christmas time. I'm like, I haven't had any bookings. I haven't had any bookings. And I was like, I'm pretty much in the same boat. Like I had bookings up till Christmas time, and they were pre-booked, but they weren't. I wasn't getting any more bookings. So then I went until January or whatever, and then I had someone rent it out long term, like 45 days or something. And then after that, I decided just to pull the plug on short term rentals, Airbnb, just because,
Mm.
like I said, my place isn't. It's great for midterm, and that's basically what I'm doing now, or it is what I'm doing now through Furnish Finder. And it's, do I get as much? No. Like I'll probably, I'm just trying to think, real quick math. I'll probably make top line 30, was it 32, 35,000, something like that. So it's substantially lower.
Mm.
I mean, midterm has lower cost. I'm not paying for all the software I was before.
It frees up your
It
time.
frees up a ton of time.
Mm.
And so there's a cost to benefit ratio there, but it's, the market has changed. Like
Mm.
Airbnb has changed. I'm sure VRBO has changed. Like, and you're at the mercy of their algorithm. And if you're not putting the sponges out, and you don't have the white linens, you don't have the nice backyard and a pool and or a just some kind of amenity that lets them feel like they're not at home, something that they can't get at home.
Mm.
They're not. Like my amenities are for traveling nurses, and I have blackout shades. Like,
Right.
it's not. It's nothing grand that you
Mm.
don't have at home. So I will say it is cheaper than a hotel room though. So
Mm.
there still is that benefit of those cheaper Airbnbs, but for the most part, I just think it's kind of dying off. And the funny thing is, Airbnb started as rent out your sofa, like you're saying, a mattress on the floor. That's what it started off as.
Mm.
For the person traveling, I think the guy that started it, he, would just literally rent out a sofa.
Mm.
And so they've gone from that, swung all the way the other way,
Yeah.
and they're trying to basically rebrand themselves.
Right.
So
Yeah, and I know they've tried doing I'm looking for log cabins, or I'm looking for castle type properties and all that stuff, and maybe in places that aren't Omaha, Omaha, Nebraska, that might work, but here it's just oversaturated with travelers, and
but for Omaha, we get a fair amount. We've got Berkshire Hathaway, we
yeah.
have College World Series. We have people that come to the zoo during the summer time frame. But
Graduation stuff like that. Yeah, they do well. But we had a similar experience. We actually, our first investment property was a duplex, and it was an up down duplex. The downstairs flooded with sewer water, so I had to back up. Filed insurance claim, did that whole thing. The two tenants that we inherited when we bought it were like less than 50% of market rate. Like they're paying $550 and $600 a month. We have them rented out now at like $1,600 a unit. So they were, significantly under. So when we told them, hey, we're raising rent, they decided to move out. And so we go and start cleaning stuff out. And that's when the basement flooded. So then, we pivoted. We said, okay, well, we need to cover our mortgage. So let's furnish the upstairs and we'll throw it up on Airbnb and, make it all nice. And we went a little overboard on the furnishings, but it did look really nice and it was homey. It had everything that, they could need. And that thing, we cash flowed probably about $2,500 a month. It was great. And, but it was so time consuming. And we found the biggest struggle was keeping cleaners on because we only had one unit. So a cleaner that was getting, 2-3 jobs a week from us. And then we have someone stay for 10 days. Now they're only getting one job this week, or none at all. And so then they'd say, okay, well, I got to go out and get outside work. And then, oh, that person's got me full-time busy, so I can't do yours anymore. So then it would turn into my wife and daughters going there at, dark 100 to go change linens and me complaining the whole time because, it's late. They got school the next day, but they're, flipping an Airbnb over. Mm-hmm. And so we tried the 2 sets of linens thing. We tried tricks like, king size sheets are all one color and queen size sheets are all different color. And it's a colossal mess. And so just trying to figure it all out. We had the opportunity to rent one out long-term or midterm. I think it started out as like 4-month stay. If we were to discount the rate, we agreed. They stayed and they said they really like it there and they'd love to buy the furniture and just stay living there. And we're like, yes, yeah, absolutely. And so we locked in a long-term lease with them and they've been there for almost 2 years now. So
were they local?
No, so they were refugees. So when the refugees all came over and they were just the nicest family, they take care of the place, like some of the best tenants that I've ever had. And the timing just worked out perfect. And so we've never raised the rent on them. Like they've just been great to work with. Anytime there's a problem, they just, they let me know. And so it's been a good relationship. And so anyways, I say all that to share, that Airbnb is not as easy as just throw it up. There was a lot that went into it and a lot of things that we didn't even, when the internet goes out, because over there we have one router. And so, the downstairs tenant would shut off the router and then the upstairs doesn't have internet. And now we get bad reviews on Airbnb. And one thing they said at the Rookie RIA event was that they are constantly working for next year's bookings. They're putting in so much effort right now to get the reviews so that they get better bookings next year. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the right mindset where they're running their business like an investment, where they're looking out for the future. And most people get into the Airbnb because they want that now. They want the instant gratification. And that's just the wrong mindset to get into any business.
Yeah, so when I first started with Airbnb, when I was purchasing it, so I think I went under contract in December and closed February 1st. In the time between that, I bought and read Avery Coral's short-term rental book thing. And so I basically did that. I just threw it up on Airbnb. I tried to automate as much as possible. And it was great. Like I said, for that first year, it was amazing. And then things changed. I had people next door. They moved out. I think some squatters moved in for a little while and selling drugs out of the house. That helped. That hurt the reviews. But like you can't predict that stuff. Like I think the guy's wife had cancer. I don't know what happened, but for whatever reason they moved out. And like next thing you know, squatters in there selling drugs.
Yeah.
So how do you build a business plan around that?
Right.
So,
well, and there's other things like we've had properties where tenant is paying rent every month and then they get the government assistance, which is, that used to be match funds, and they take it and they pay 6 months all at once. And then, you get a lump sum, their rent's coming in, the balance is coming due, but they have already got a large deposit in there. So it's clearing every month when we draw rent out. And then somewhere along the 6 months, they just dip out and don't tell anyone, and they just move out. And we have no idea because we're if the tenant doesn't say anything, we're usually not stopping by the property, especially smaller single family.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when the funds ran out and we said, okay, are you guys renewing? No response. And, we go check on the unit and it's vacant. But not only is it vacant, the basement is flooded because someone broke in and stole all the copper. And
So
so
that's your property?
this is one of the properties in the fund and destroyed everything. But how are we gonna know? It's stuff that I didn't even foresee, having to plan for because tenants paying rent, it's clearing every month, so we're good. But yeah, I think a lot of the mistakes that I could have made and probably would have made were avoided by listening to just too many podcasts. Like too many, but not enough, because you can't plan for everything. There will always be something. Even now, after years of being in the industry, we're flipping a house, and I'm still learning stuff. And I'm like, that could have saved me on quite a few deals.
Yeah, that's the benefit and the curse of what we do is it's forever changing. Like there's always something new to learn, and it's not rocket science though. Like for my day job, I do IT type stuff, and that's forever changing too.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like there's no end in sight there, and it just you kind of it's hard too. Like it's not like technology gets easier.
Right.
It might be easier to utilize, but it's harder to maintain
Well,
and to understand and stuff. So
but it goes
that's why
back
I
to
like
choose your hard, right?
Yeah,
Like, because real estate is not, it's not as mentally difficult as maybe your IT job, but losing $30,000 on a deal, that's hard.
correct.
You go and you do your IT work, you've never been at risk of losing $30,000 or more. Like that's where it's the choose your hard. And my wife's word of the week has been laborious. So she just talks about how she likes doing all this labor intensive work because it gives the mind a break. And in real estate, as agents and brokers, we have to do a lot more communication and nurturing and putting out fires. So that side of the business is very different. That's sales. So I think sales and real estate investing have some overlap, but a lot of the day-to-day tasks are very different.
Mm-hmm.
And so as real estate agents, it is very you're on the clock 24/7, and so to be able to go and just take a sledge and knock out some vanities and, demo a kitchen and, that it was nice. Granted, I mean, I'm all beat up on, wasn't expecting to, be this sore from swinging a hammer for a day, but it was nice to just shut your mind off and just do hard tasks.
Yeah,
So
I would agree there. So you said something kind of piqued my interest. How would you define yourself today? Would you define yourself as a agent, broker, salesperson, or would you define yourself as an investor? Or if yeah, how would you define yourself?
yeah, I mean, I'm a real estate broker. That's my occupation. But what I enjoy doing is investing and raising money, putting together, partnerships, um, structuring developments like that. That's the stuff that I enjoy, but it doesn't pay the bills yet. I don't have enough investments to be like, I make good money as a real estate broker. It's going to be a while before my real estate investments are making me that much money. So for the time, I'm a real estate broker. And I had someone ask me, as they normally do, do I need to get my real estate license to be a good investor? And my answer is absolutely not. Because being a real estate agent, real estate broker it's a job.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a 9 to 5, it's a 24/7 job. And if you are doing it just to invest, it's probably not a good idea because there's ebbs and flows in sales where, working commission, there could be 6 months that we don't make any commissions and then we make $100,000 in a month. But if you really want more money to invest, find your unique ability, the thing that you are best at to make the most amount of money in the least amount of time possible, and take all that money and invest it. And eventually that will replace your active income. But just getting your real estate license, it's going to be a 12 to 24-month process before you even know what the heck you're doing. And
That's where I'm at.
well, and I think that in that time, you could be focusing on something that you're better at. And maybe, I mean, maybe it's bartending, like when my wife and I were first starting real estate, like we were still working side jobs. I was door dashing. I still door dash from time to time. When we're in between commissions, I'm like, I want that quick cash. Like I miss, knowing that if I'm going out, when I come back, I'm going to have more money than I left with. In real estate, it's not always like that. I could go out, drive around, look at properties, show clients, deals, and come back, and I'm out gas money, But anyways, I know I'm going kind of long-winded with it, but
You do that often.
I think you gave me a microphone. I think that people just need to focus on their highest and best use of their time to then take that money and invest it. Probably could have just answered it with that.
Probably. So, yeah, I agree. Like, once again, going back to what we were talking about Airbnb and businesses and stuff, like being a real estate agent, that's a business, that's a job, that's owning your job. However you want to, if you
Solopreneur.
take the can't speak, cash flow quadrant.
Mm-hmm.
You're a solopreneur, or you own your business. You're not. It's not a business. It's you own your job.
Right.
What I meant to say.
Wait, but why isn't it a business?
Because you can't walk away from it.
So walk away meaning,
like, you can't go sit on the beach and money come in.
right? Exactly. And I think that's the biggest distinction that people need to understand is if you are, reinvesting into your business, you're the only agent that is bringing in income. I mean, obviously my wife and I kind of act as one agent. We do all the same deals, but if we decide to take a vacation for a week, the money stops. Mm-hmm. But if we are reinvesting into the business and it becomes more autonomous, then I believe it's a true business. And so I just wanted to emphasize what you said.
Yeah.
There.
And that's, so I've been looking into buying small businesses more and as a different investment class. But I looked at this one business just recently, and I can't go into too much detail because NDA and all that, but local business, and they're doing top line $3 million roughly last year. They had substantial growth over the year before, but it's like 1.5 and 2, and then they jumped up to 3 or something roughly. And so I started looking at it. I'm like, oh, it sounds good. But you start looking at the business itself, like how it's run, and it's basically two people, and one of them's the owner.
Mm-hmm.
And so the person's making salary of $55,000. The other person's making a salary of $55,000. Like, I'll just go hire that person for $75,000. It's still the whole business. That was my thinking. Like, what's stopping me from doing? Like, she has all the knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they sub out everything, and I'm like, I just need that knowledge. Like, I don't need to buy a business. Like, I just have to find that one person and pay him $75,000. Hire a second person. To do the sales or whatever, and just be done with it. And they want, a couple $1 million for this business. Obviously, he's doing $3 million top line, so they want a couple million. But I'm just like, while the numbers may or may not make sense, just the business idea didn't, from a purchase standpoint, didn't make sense.
Well, and that's one of the things I've looked at quite a few businesses to buy, and one of them was, relatively inexpensive. They were willing to carry a significant portion, the seller would carry, and they wanted a 10-20% down payment, which would have been, maybe 20 or 30,000. And it made sense because, that business, even after all the debt service, based on historicals, and they have people locked in that have been long-term customers, like a lot of the risk was mitigated. It would have made back the entire purchase price in the first year. And so to me, it seems like a no-brainer. And obviously I had to pray on it. And I was like, is this the right time? And what it came down to is they don't have any employees that would make this passive for me. This would be a job, and I'm not looking to spend, $60, $80, $100,000 for a new job. And so that's why I didn't wind up going through with it. But I mean, a lot of businesses, I feel like your due diligence period in real estate is you're trying to find the blemishes, right? Like, especially commercial real estate, we don't have the disclosures that are required in residential. So you're really going in blind. And granted, you should go into residential deals blind too, because a lot of those disclosures are BS. But when you're going in, you're trying to find issues with the building itself. When buying a business, you're trying to find the blemishes with the business model and be like, why are they selling? Because if this was a good and profitable business, they wouldn't sell. Not everyone is just retired and willing to walk away from a diamond. A lot of times there's something that you need to discover.
Yeah. So you're saying, even though they say, hey, I'm retiring because I'm 65, I want to retire and spend time with my grandkids. You're saying that if that was true, they wouldn't be selling.
Right. I mean, some people, they just want the lump sum payout. I'm working with one client that has owned this business for 35 years and is just tired of running it, and realizes that it is an active role, and just wants a lump sum, or not, wants their money to be done. But if someone had a good operational business, then they have reoccurring leads, they have reoccurring closings, they're bringing in new business. But when it's, for a business model, if you're a house cleaner and you have no one, that you have very poor tenant or client retainment, then you're having to go out and chase your next job. That's not a business.
Yep. That was the other thing with this business, was there was no recurring revenue. There was nothing. It was 75% new business every year.
Yeah.
So what am I buying? I'm not buying it's not like a property management company where I'm buying contracts. Mm-hmm. It's not pest control where I'm buying contracts. It's not something like that. I'm not having to go out and hunt every single day just to make a check.
I mean, for a fraction of the cost, that business could cost you $2.2 million, right? You could spend $120,000 buying a franchise from a business model that can blow that company out of the water. And I don't even know what company you're talking about, so this is not to say that's a bad idea. But when you're buying a franchise, you're buying the proven systems, the branding, all the stuff that comes with it. And so I used to be very against the franchise model until, one of my close, friends and mentors is all about the franchise model, because he says, what I do best is build systems. Mm-hmm. He's like, I don't care what the product is. I just build a system around it. And I can take that system and I can apply it to this industry. I can take this system and apply it to this industry. And now he's just got a bunch of little factories, all cranking away. So yeah.
Quite a few little oil wells.
Yeah, little oil wells. And you ever play those those stupid video games? They got like the logger and the miner for money and all those. Like, have you ever seen those? Typhoon or something like that? I don't know. Anyways, every once in a while. So I started taking a new course to get my CDL, so that when we go on road trips, I can get a diesel RV. It's one big enough for our size family, and pick up jobs here and there. Truck driving. I'm like, that's fun. I need a break from real estate sometimes, so go out and do stuff like that. Well, during this course, it's online course, and it's extremely boring. It's all about like, don't text while drive, don't drink while drive, like very long and drawn out. So I'm like, I'm just going to download a game on my phone. I don't play video games. I was like, I need something to stimulate my brain while I listen to this boring stuff. And I remember why I like those types of games so much, because I understand like every time that you upgrade, it becomes more expensive to upgrade and all that stuff. Like, I get how they set up the game, but what it does is it teaches your mind to identify and destroy blockages. And when you can do that in your business, and you see, well, what's my biggest issue in my real estate business? It's like, well, I'm working on nurturing all of these leads that have offers out on properties, and I'm not drumming up any new business. So either I need to take one hand off of the nurturing to go, bring up some new leads for new business, or I need to hire someone that can then nurture those leads, and I can do what I'm best at, and that's negotiating and closing deals. So anyways, what I was saying is I like those types of games because you see where the problems are, and you go and either delegate or you take yourself away from something else. And I think that when we can look from that bird's eye view on our own business or a business that we're looking to buy, that's all we're doing is we're looking for those blockages. And that blockage in that business might be that you don't have a good sales training program. Implement a sales training program and it's 100% passive. Like, you just solved a blockage.
Yeah. So going back to business, I happened to go to a networking thing yesterday and met this guy who owns a business here in town, and he does about $1 million top line, and he's thinking of just changing career, switching things up. So he was intrigued when I said something about looking to buy small businesses, and we talked for a while, and I was telling him, like, there's kind of going back to what we were saying about difference between owning your business and stuff. Like, he wants to exit, and while I don't know what his margins are, but say he's making $1 million top line. So his margin, say he's bringing in 20% bottom, but he's actively working in the business. So how much is it worth? Like, if he wasn't in the business and he was just sitting out and he had contracts with other people and doing stuff, like, he could theoretically sell that business maybe for $1 million or something like that. But with him making $20,000 or $200,000 and actively working, I'm sure a lot of that goes to his salary. Like, how much is your business really worth at that time? And so I think that's what people don't really like.
Well, then my fear in it being in that position too is I don't get me wrong. If I could buy a business with 10% down and make that back in the first year, that's a phenomenal investment. But I don't believe in whatever industry that is. Like, it could be a countertop manufacturing company or something. I'm not confident that I'm a $200,000 employee in that field, because in order for his business to be sustainable, he has to be an expert in what he's doing.
So he does the sales in this scenario.
Right. So
you have to be an expert salesperson.
Yeah. Okay. And so with sales, I mean, it really is insert product here. And, when you are good at sales, it doesn't matter what you're selling. And so our oldest, just turned 18, and she just got a job with the marketing company that does all the products for Cutco. And I love their training model. Like, my wife did Cutco, when she was younger. And, there's a lot of programs out there, like the timeshare sales and, all those pest control door knockers. They do a phenomenal job training their employees. And I think if you can learn that type of skill, it doesn't matter what field you go into next. And like we were talking about earlier, do you need a real estate license to be a good investor? Like, honestly, if there's anything I would say, go find one of those companies that's willing to train you on the top level sales, work for them for 3 or 4 years, make a boatload of money, and then you're going to be just fine in this business.
Yeah. If you know basic finance, learn people skills and some sales skills, like, the world's your oyster, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, as long as you can manage your money, both personal and business, and can sell whatever product, and you can, the people skills.
Yeah.
Go.
We're still working on those, right?
Go directly to sales. But yeah, I think it's like, I was talking to Alyssa about this, and I think for someone 18 to 25, being in a nice bar, like, I'm not talking about like a dive bar, but a nice bar where you have your average person that comes in and all the way up to like a high-end business person, and just seeing all those different personalities come through, dealing with the drunk guy at the end of the bar, dealing with the business guy that's trying to close a deal, and everybody in between. Like, you would learn so much from the sales aspect, dealing with people, personalities. Um, I honestly think for a young person, it's one of the best um, things to just learn people. Forget the money, just the people skills
Yeah,
aspect of it.
absolutely.
So,
Well, and so I think we might have talked about this before, but so which is more important, sales or marketing?
well, if you have good marketing, you don't need sales. So,
Yeah.
if you don't have any marketing, then you need good sales.
Hmm.
But you can do what I think you could cut out either one realistically. It's
Hmm.
just how much more do you want to work on the sales? Even a salesperson's marketing themselves. They're marketing their business.
Hmm.
It's just done in a different way. To me, it's all marketing. It's just
Yeah.
how are you doing it? Are you running a TV ad? Are you doing a podcast? Or like realistically, we're marketing right now. I mean, just to be frank with it,
Hmm.
like you're marketing yourself. You're building rapport with somebody.
Well, and I think it's a lot. It's a yin yang. Like you need both because if you're a plus salesperson, but you have no leads, doesn't matter how good you are at your job because nobody knows you exist. And vice versa, if you are an A plus marketing person, but you can't close a deal, it's like the biggest mess up that I see people doing that are good marketers is when they don't put a call to action. They give you all this great information, and then okay, but what do you want?
What is that? Sales or good marketing?
It could be both. I
I'll use
mean,
Alex Hormozy as an example.
mhm.
When's the last time you heard a true sales pitch from him? Like he goes out there, he's like, I don't have anything to sell you except for these books that I have.
Mm.
And how many people buy his books? Like,
A lot. Yeah.
yeah, I got both of them that I've
Yeah.
written
So
so
he
far.
he is a key marketer, so he doesn't have to be a good
So he doesn't
salesperson. That's
sell.
that's a good point.
You know,
Yeah.
like a lot of people. I mean, they have call to actions, but to me, that's part of marketing.
Hmm.
And in case in point, so for my MBA program, I took a marketing class. There's no sales class.
Mm.
So if sales are that important, why do they not teach sales in college?
That's a good one.
So I think sales is just an extension of marketing.
Yeah.
Like you're marketing yourself or your business, your product
Mm.
when you're in front of someone selling them.
See, and I think of sales as more of the negotiation and closing a deal. It's the mind games that go into it. And I love all that stuff.
I don't know.
Because I mean, when even in the real estate side, when you get someone interested, like let's say I have a listing, right, and marketing it is just making people aware that this listing is available. When someone comes in and shows interest, the follow up, the negotiations, the conversations that we have, you know, the tonality, do you call them too much? Do you call them not enough? Like all of that is the sales side. And if you are terrible at that stuff, then it doesn't matter how many people you got this deal in front of because you're going to lose on the back end. So I think that's kind of more what I'm getting at, and especially in a field where it's more applicable, I think, for us. And like I said, the same, if I have a property and I'm a good negotiator, good salesperson, but nobody knows it existed, then I have no one to negotiate with. So,
Yeah. I wish I could remember the exact definition of what marketing is. And it's funny. So I started taking this marketing class. You always hear people, so in Nebraska, they said that you can't wholesale. You can't market equitable interests.
mm,
And everybody's like, well, I'm not marketing and I'm just putting it out to people I already know. I'm just letting them know. And then I was
that is marketing. Yeah.
taking my marketing class, like that's the textbook definition of marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Making people aware of.
you are making, if you get sued by the state or get fined by state, you're making their argument for them because
Mm-hmm.
you have something that somebody else wants and you're exchanging value for it. That's marketing.
Yep.
So
Yeah. No, I get into it with people, about the wholesaling laws, and obviously I have the perspective of being licensed, but I do think that it is to protect the general public. And if it's as easy as just marketing it with someone who is licensed to market real estate, like that's pretty easy solution. And one of the arguments that we get in is when people manage Airbnbs. I mean, if they are acting as a property manager, they need to be licensed. And so many people just say, "Oh no, I'm a co-host." It's like, but okay, but you're handling the money, you're setting rates, you're negotiating with clients. Like, you are a property manager, and you need to be licensed to do that. So I don't. I think that for a while they're going to get away with it, and it's not going to be a big deal. But something is going to happen where bad actor is going to ruin it for everybody, and the owner is going to say, "Oh, my property manager just embezzled money or something like that." And like, property manager, like, the commission is going to crack down and say you can't do that. And there's a reason for it.
Not to mention the accounts. Like, you can't handle other people's money. You
Exactly.
got a trust account or
Yeah.
whatever it's called.
Yeah. So it's stuff like that where it's very easy if you haven't gone through the very easy process of getting licensed. You're going to have the opinion that oh, we should be allowed to wholesale, we should be able to do this, and just everything's wild, wild west. And like, but that's a chaotic society, when everyone's just doing whatever they feel like.
See, yeah, and maybe I'm a contrarian here, but I disagree with that. I don't even think you should have a license. I don't think you should have to buy a house through a licensed agent. And I think I think it's a scam. I think it's a federal, national, state scam. What other thing do I have to go through a licensed person to buy? I can go buy a car. You got 18-year-old person just graduated high school last week selling you a car. I go to Walmart and there's people selling me stuff at Walmart. Wherever you go, there's no other place that I have to go through a licensed person that has to pay a commission to other people.
Okay.
And the only reason they do that is because economy. They're trying to protect the economy, I would say. Just put it in simple terms.
I think to a point maybe, but
And I'm licensed, so I mean,
right. So, but have you ever bought insurance directly from a carrier, or do you go through a licensed person to do it for you?
I've gone through
a person that's licensed.
Well, I mean, so like my personal house right here is in USA. I just call up USA and they give you insurance.
Okay, so
but you can go to State Farm, go straight to State Farm. You can go to Geico, go straight to Geico.
But that person is getting a commission, yes?
Well, yes, but they're...
So I get it when you're buying a car and stuff like that. And I also don't believe that you should be able to buy a car without an expert that, I think it's a great idea someone's going to do it here in this, but create some kind of representative where they can go and, inspect cars for you and do all that stuff. Almost like a buyer's agent, because how often do you buy cars? I buy cars more often than most people, and I make a mistake every time. I overlook something, and I was a mechanic for 10 years, but I still make mistakes. So if there's someone who that's all they do is, I would pay someone a commission gladly to make sure that I don't make a buying mistake.
So I guess my differentiation on that is choosing to do it versus basically required to do it. It's kind of my...
Well, you're not required to use a licensed person. You can go direct to seller anytime you want. But if the general public, if real estate agents were not a thing at all, what would happen in the real estate industry? There would be a few experts that would go around taking advantage of people with no one there to regulate their behavior. So having a licensed individual, and especially the transactions I've done where there's a licensed person on both sides, have always been smooth, 100% of the time, been smoother than when I deal directly with a homeowner.
I just don't think you should have to broker something through the MLS.
Oh, I agree, but now we're talking about the realtor,
that's what
rules.
I'm talking,
yeah. That's I think a little different.
I don't have a problem with a buyer's agent, a seller's agent on principle. I just think that the way that so I'll give a prime example. I was talking to a broker for businesses yesterday, and he's like, I met him a few times. He said, "Hey, have you ever thought about selling businesses?" I'm like, I don't even know anything about how do you do that? So he's like, for his company, you take an online thing and you go to their corporate headquarters or whatever for a week. and they train you, and that's it.
Hmm.
So if you can buy a multi-million-dollar business or sell a multi-million-dollar business that way, without there's basically no middleman, and that's what I don't like is a state regulatory body
Hmm.
that is the middle person. I think that is, I don't know. I just not a fan of it.
Hmm.
This isn't the first time I've had this argument. People. I mean, I know I'm on the outside, probably for most people thinking that way, but
No, I am always open to the conversation. Especially I realize that I have a perspective based on being a licensed, broker. But like this whole big lawsuit that's going on with NAR, contrary to what a lot of real estate agents are saying, I don't disagree with it. I think that there should be more disclosures because you know what's going on with commissions is price fixing.
well,
It's
they
it's
say it's not, and I don't care. I won't get in trouble for it, but they say we don't price fix. Go on Redfin because Redfin publishes it,
mhm,
and look at the commission on everything. I guarantee you, in Omaha, it's 2.4% on
2.4 on everything.
90% of the deals.
Yep.
Do people talk about it?
The
Nope.
only time they talk about it is when it's less than 2.4. If someone goes in there and puts 2, then it's like people either avoid the listing or they throw a fit about it.
I've seen one. I seen one the other day that's at 0, but that's since the ruling.
Hmm.
You go to Lincoln, I think it's 2% in Lincoln.
Hmm.
You go, I was talking to somebody in St. Louis, and theirs is like 3 or 3.2. Every state or every city, metro area has their quote unquote number.
So what do you think is a solution to that?
I don't know.
So my thing is, I think that the commission should always be negotiable. We were taught, especially starting off by being a realtor before doing commercial transactions, you're not allowed to talk about commission. You can't talk to the other agent about what your commission is. You can't negotiate your commission. I think it should be negotiable. If I have a property in West Omaha that's going to sell in 24 hours, I'm not paying a buyer's agent because I'm just going to put this up. I did all the work to get the listing. I'm going to put it up and then it's going to sell in no time.
I could agree with that.
But if I have a property that's in Midtown, it's a little run down, I need to incentivize another agent to bring me a buyer because I can't find a buyer on my own, then yeah, I'll put a commission up. But it's kind of it's the supply and demand. Are we in a buyer's market and a seller's market? In a seller's market, there's lower commissions for buyer's agent. In a buyer's market, then there's more deals than there are buyers, and you have to incentivize agents to bring their clients to you. Like that's how the commission structure started. Was when brokerages would keep their own buyers lists and they would only market it to their buyers. And then they didn't have to pay any outside commissions because they keep everything in house. And that's how the MLS started. The multiple listing service was a broker to broker agreement that we're all going to share our listings with each other to give the general public the equal opportunity to compete for these deals. And with that, they started sharing commissions. But the commission used to be, if you, Mr. Seller, want me to sell your property, I will do it for 4%. I'll do it for 5, 6, 7, whatever my rate is based on how busy I am, how much service I provide. That's a supply and demand on its own. But I will sell your property for 5%. And I'm going to go to my buyer's list and I'm going to get that whole 5%.
Mm-hmm.
Now, since the MLS and, they share a portion of that. I mean, back east where I'm from, it was you split 6%. Everything is 3 and 3, 3 and 3, always. And it's been a little bit of a race to the bottom, which is how you get to 2.4 and all that stuff. But on the commercial side, it's the initial conversation we have. Is if we're doing a deal, hey, what are you giving buyers? What's a buyer's fee? And tell them, well, we're splitting 5 or 3 and 3 or what. It's an easy conversation. And I think maybe once or twice have I ever negotiated the commission with someone because they say, oh, we're not paying a buy side commission, or, we have enough buyers that don't want to charge a commission, or I've given up both sides. I go submit an offer and I'll say, I'll give you both sides of commission because I'm the one buying the deal. So anyways, the one thing that I really wish that NAR would do is train more on how to ethically negotiate your commission. Because what the reason why you're not allowed to do it as a member of NAR is because agents will throw a deal away because they're not getting the commission they want. And that is not in the best interest of their client. So if people were able to remove that, negotiate, use the commission as a negotiating tool to get better deals for their clients, then I mean, great. But I don't know that people are capable of that.
Yeah, it goes back to aligning interest.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you do that?
What I've seen, and I've listened to a lot of videos. Some buyers reps have been saying, okay, while this is still fresh, I want you to expect to pay my fee, my 2.5%, 3% fee, whatever it is. And buyer agrees, says, we'll put it in closing costs or whatever. And then when the agent is submitting offers, they are waiving their commission from there. So then the listing agent, is thinking, oh, I get both sides of it. That I think that's going to come into issues because now there's still double commissions getting paid. The buyer is paying the buyer's agent, the seller is paying the listing agent, both sides. And we call it both sides, but it's really just the full commission. So they're getting full commission. That's 7% commission. What the general public thinks is going to happen is that when they no longer have to pay a buy side agent, that prices are going to drop 3%. And that's not going to happen.
No. And that goes back to my argument of why I don't like it. I think NAR, they're national, like they're pseudo government agency, if you will. I don't know exactly how they're structured, but they're there to protect the economy. Like that's like, I don't know what the housing market is percentage wise, but it's a large portion of the national economy.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get people going rogue and housing prices dropping and all that stuff, go back to 2008. What happened? Housing prices dropped, went into a recession, people lost jobs. That's really what they're there for. And that's, in my opinion, what a lot of this is about. It has nothing to do with the listing agent or the buyer's agent, the seller's agent, the commission itself. It's ways for people to make money, A, and B, it's way to protect the economy from collapse like in 2008.
And I can see that. Yeah, I think having the Real Estate Commission and National Association of Realtors, they're two separate entities that both the underlying intent is to protect the general public and from bad actors. Because, like I said,
I wouldn't say it protects the public, but
well, that's why we have all these rules. That's why we have disclosures. That's why if I think if there was no agents and people were allowed to transact freely, there would be people, like I said, who are experts who go around taking advantage of others, making massive amounts of money for themselves by defrauding other people. They don't disclose issues about their property and sell it to some sucker who will buy it. They didn't tell anyone that there was lead-based paint, that they were aware of, and they let some, baby get sick and die. Like those kinds of things happened, which is why we have the rules that we have now. And so as much as I understand the frustration with the regulatory body, I also believe that they are a benefit to the real estate industry. And people that push back against it usually are the ones who are doing something unethical. Not saying you are, but I'm saying a lot of the wholesalers that say, oh, I don't want to do that. It's because they're trying to get deals by taking advantage of people that don't know the value of their property. Not all wholesalers are like that. I know some that they truly just want to help people and realize that having this regulatory body over their shoulder, it affects their ability to, negotiate deals and provide a good service.
So on that, I had coffee with a guy, I don't know, technically wholesales, but he buys properties for himself. And he had something in there in his contract, which I thought was really interesting. He basically gives them 72 hours to pull back. And in there, it says, and gives them contact information had they, if they don't have anybody. Talk to your attorney, talk to a realtor, talk to, um, he provides like five people that he can, not people, but entities that they can talk to,
Mm-hmm.
and along with websites and stuff. Make sure you're getting a good deal for yourself, or you're not getting hosed in any way, shape, or form. And give them 72 hours to tear up the contract. I thought that was a really good way of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Basically, giving them, you're not giving them education, but giving them the opportunity for education,
Right.
and make sure that they're making an ethical. That it just makes your position a little bit more ethical, I think.
Yeah, and I think that the people that come in aren't willing to even do those kinds of things. Like they come in and say, "Oh, I could sell this property for 250. I'm gonna what 70% of that, and then subtract my rehab budget, and then I'll just go half of that." And then before you know it, they're saying, "Oh, sorry, Grandma June, your property's only worth 40,000, and I could give you 35." And and they prey on people's fear to make themselves money, and then they go around make 30, 40,000 assigning a contract. And I have no problem with people making money if they're doing it honestly.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing it with integrity. Like the most respect that I have is the wholesaler that goes in and says, "Okay, I'm going to break down these numbers. I can sell your property for 200,000 when it's all fixed up. It's going to cost me 30,000, 50,000, whatever, to fix it all up. And I need to make a profit in there. I have a team to pay. I have all this stuff, all this overhead. So I need to be somewhere in this budget. So where can you work with me in there?" And then they talk it back and forth, and they come to a negotiation. But that that is few and far between, because people are taught that the way that they make money is by getting the best deal and by lowballing, and it goes back to the people wanting that instant gratification. Is they want the deal now because they won someone over, and in negotiation, the win lose negotiator. I mean, it comes full circle. So
Yeah, I think maybe it's just my rose-colored glasses I'm looking through, but uh, I feel like people in the long run that do those unethical things, they get found out and they get run out of the business.
yeah.
So, man, I can think of one guy right now. I've talked to a handful of people. When I first met him a couple of years ago, his story, everything just sounded grand. Like, oh man, this dude, doing well for himself, like from where he came from.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's basically a criminal. And I've heard, I don't know whether it's true or not, that he's got criminal charges against him. Like he, went from a good story to
Mm-hmm.
good time in jail. I don't know if that's where it's going to play out, but
Yeah.
it does happen. Like,
Mm.
and this guy let greed get in front of him, and now people don't want to do business with him. And all I hear in the street, stay away from this guy, stay away from this guy. Well, 2 years ago when I got into this and I met him, he had a great reputation.
Mm.
He spoke at the RIA. He, like people were poster child on him, if you will.
Mm.
And then,
Yeah.
nothing in the business, the truth comes out.
And that's what I've been in the search of lately, over the last maybe 12, 16 months, is principles that I'm going to run my business based on. And, I've just some mentors I've talked to, like, what are some principles is I never take out too much debt. I don't refinance my property more than once. I just stuff that they do that's put them in a safe position to build a portfolio. And one guy that I respect the hell out of, he told me, I'm sure if I was, or if you were me, you probably could have done it a lot faster than I did it. And he's got a substantial, portfolio, like maybe 30, $40 million portfolio. And he's like, I took the slow route. He's like, I kept, my properties with lower leverage, and I just wanted my cash flow. And my point was, you went through two recessions by doing it that way. So the principles paid off for you. And so some of the principles that I've been, looking in my own business is, if someone screws me on a deal, we're done. Like I can forgive people, but I will never work with them again. Because if you're going to screw me in any way, then you're going to have an opportunity to do it again at a later date on a much bigger deal. And I can't trust that you're not going to take that opportunity. And so whether it's a lender, a title company, inspector, whatever, contractor, they screw me one time and we're not doing business together anymore. And there's a lot more lenders that I will not do business with than any other field. I don't know what it is about that industry, but there's a lot of people that I just will not work with.
I'll say this. I don't know if it's the lender per se, like the person, Tom, or, just pick person.
I will tag all of them in the comments.
Yeah. As much as it is the industry, and they're trying to protect theirs.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, in lending, from what I've seen, they all have a boss, and that boss is looking at the bottom line of their shareholders, because banks are owned by shareholders, and so I think that's where a lot of that comes from.
Yeah,
more than the person.
Yeah, I think so. And it is a tough job. I'm not discounting that, but I don't know. That's one of the principles that I think, especially even when it comes to wholesalers and stuff like that, is that if they're lying about one thing, they could be lying about anything else, and then I'm going to be the one that pays for it. So it's just something that I've set my business up to avoid. So
yeah, I find,
and don't get me wrong, I don't have a blacklist. I don't have I'm not going around town spreading names of because it's not to say that that lender is bad. Like, you might have a completely different relationship, but when I realize that we're not going to get along, that's where I just draw the this is not a long-term relationship.
Yeah, I mean, as an agent, you can't turn your buyer away from them, but you can, as an investor, you can not turn to them for your own investment.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I can't steer anyone away from it, but I can just recommend other options, first. Yeah. So that's kind of what, and we have a long spreadsheet of lenders that we've worked with, and then I highlight the ones that I've worked with most recently or had a conversation with most recently, and there's maybe 15, 20 originators on there, and I'll just share the whole list with my clients and say, if you do yourself a favor, call everyone on this list and get to know them. You'll find very quick who you want to work with. So,
yeah. You got anything else before we end this thing?
Well, I think that was a good intro. So now let's get to the meat and potatoes.
Yeah, I don't know how long. We should get a timer here so we can see. I don't even know how long. We just talk.
Wherever the wind blows. That's right. No, I think I like the different perspectives on things, and especially
it's the first argument.
I mean,
on
air, yeah, maybe, but I like the perspective of someone who is licensed that doesn't really necessarily agree with the status quo of all agents. I go on TikTok or something, and I see a bunch of real estate agents just whining about, oh, you don't realize how underpaid we actually are, and all this stuff. It's like, okay, shut up. I don't think that work. Right. I mean, I don't for a second think that I'm underpaid. I think I'm very well compensated, but you're compensated relative to the size of problem you're solving. And so if you're not solving large problems, you don't deserve to be compensated well. It's that simple.
I agree. Sell more deals, go out and shake more babies and hug more hands. Or
yeah, that's right.
Whatever that saying is.
That's right. Yeah.
So, cool. Well, you don't have anything else? Sign this bad boy off.
All right.
Urge.